Hello everyone, welcome to the jungle. Welcome here live to Green School Bali. We're so excited to have you here joining us live from campus today. As you can see, it's a wonderful, warm and sunny day here in Bali, and we are so excited to have you join us here for our virtual open day. We have a packed program today, so let's get started. First, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mats. I work here at Green School as a director. My responsibility is communication and admissions. And I'm here today to give you a flavor of and host you through the different options you can encounter here at our lovely campus at Green School. So I've been here at Green School for around 5 years now. And as many families, I came here to Bali with my own family around 5 years ago from cold Scandinavia to enjoy the program at Green School. And I also ended up working for the school, and my family have been here now for 5 years in Bali and enjoying life and Green School and all the opportunities of our community very much here. So that's a little bit about me. I am joined here on the set by my lovely colleague Christina. And Christina, what's your background here at Green School, and what is it that you do?
Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. Yes, so Mads, I'm the head of admissions here, so I might have already spoken to you. I can see we have lots of new prospective families joining us, some we've been in touch with already, so welcome. So as head of admissions, I look after the new joining families together with my wonderful team, Adi and Pancha. And like Mads, I'm also a parent here. My story was a little bit different, so I actually joined myself as head of admissions first, a similar role that I was doing previously in Singapore as well. And my children, so I have 2 children. My daughter joined Green School only last year, and I had the pleasure of seeing her transition coming from a more traditional academic, more rigorous program to this really open and very self-directed program here in our primary school, and seen an amazing transition that she's gone through, not only academically and as a student, but just social emotional development. So yes, I had the pleasure of watching my daughter grow in the environment here as well, and seeing both perspectives now.
Yeah. Okay, so Christina, we are here on a Sunday. It's morning here in Bali and still fresh and slightly cool here at campus, but usually the background you see behind us here is green and lush, but also very vibrant and full of students. The student body that would be here on a normal school day, Christina, what does that look like?
Yes, so we have around 500 students at any one time here on the campus. We cover early years all the way to grade 12. So we have the 4 learning neighborhoods. We have early years, primary school, middle school and high school. And across those we have over 40 different nationalities at any one time. And yes, so we have a really diverse student and also family cohort.
Yeah. But it's not only students that are on campus, of course. We have a lot of people working here at the school besides you and me. So can you speak a little to our teaching body and who else is working here at the school? What does the composition look like?
Yeah, so we get that question a lot, who are our teachers? So we have the privilege of having over 50 local staff, so local teachers, and they also work together with international teachers. So we have about 40 international teachers, and they are from all different teaching curriculums, different backgrounds. They are our class teachers and specialist teachers as well. So they make up around 90 teachers in total, which is a very good ratio as opposed to from 90 teachers to 500 students. Yeah. We also have a lot of extra staff that make sure that this campus is looked after. We have a very large campus, and we have about 100 ground staff to make it look this rugged at any one time, and of course keep it safe. So we have gardeners, we have security, we have housekeeping, and most of them are actually employed from the local area, from Sabang as well. So it keeps it within the community, which is lovely.
Thank you, Christina, for giving us a bit of an overview of the school. So before we dive into the program for today, I just want to ask you one final question that we get a lot from all the incoming families. That is, when is it possible to join? Because Green School is a popular school, and there's rumors about not being no access for students for August. And how does that look? Is there a wait list, or can people join from this August?
Yes, so we do actually have families who come very well prepared and who apply maybe 18 months, 2 years in advance. And obviously we welcome that because we can support them throughout the transition and make sure that they're all well prepared. However, we also do have some families who might come within a 3 months or 4 months notice. So now being in April, we actually still have a couple of vacancies for most grades this coming August. So if you're one of those families who are still toying with the idea to move to Bali by August, we are happy to support you and walk you through the process. It is a lot easier than you think, and you'll see today that we have a lot of resources for you and a lot of people, of departments that look after your transition, so we can make it even possible within a few months.
Thanks. Okay, so let's take a look at the program for today. So the team is just going to share that so you can see it on your screen as well. So we're going to start with an opening. That's what we're doing now. Then we will, in a second, dive into a session about our curriculum. And that curriculum session will give you a taste of what does it look like, a school day here at Green School, what kind of courses are available, and that's next up. Then after the curriculum session, we are going to go into a section with breakout rooms. And the breakout rooms that we have available today, Christina, could you speak a little bit about the options that people have? Because we have 3 different rooms you can join today.
Yes, so we have 3 rooms, and one of them, which is the first one that you've been placed automatically in, is a Living in Bali session. So that's going to be hosted by myself and Putri, who is the head of community here. And Putri is actually attending a ceremony this morning, so we get a bit of an insight of what life in Bali is really like, which is really exciting. And then we have 2 other sessions, one hosted by Park Benjamin, who's our head of upper school, and one by Ibu Victoria, who's our head of primary school. So you have the option of, even when you join the initial section, you can go into the options, into the more section, and then go into the breakout rooms, and always switch in between. And we would encourage you to actually go into the different sessions, because you might have specific curricular questions for upper school, for example, and then want to go back and ask maybe something about housing. So you can freely move in between those. They're about 30 or so minute sessions for the breakout room, so you have lots of time to go in between and ask the questions that you came here for today.
Yeah. And then after the breakout rooms, we have the final and a very exciting section of today, because we're going to be joined here on the set by a Green School parent, Christina, isn't that right?
Yes, so we're going to be joined by Jo, who's a lovely parent, and she and her family joined us from Canada, I believe last year only, but they feel like they're part of the furniture now. So they're a really great addition to the community. They have 2 children attending the school here, and Jo can again share her experience, and will share her experience and her family's experience from moving from Canada to Bali and everything in between.
Nice. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a good overview of the rundown today. So without further ado, we are going to transition into the first of the items on the menu, which is a dive into our curriculum. So you're now going to watch a little recording from our head of curriculum. He's called Dan McCloy. And Dan, he has the role here at Green School that he looks after embedding the curriculum into all parts of the school. So he's going to speak to what are those special components that we have in our curriculum here at Green School, and how does that pan out in terms of a day in a life of a student here in the different learning neighborhoods. So please enjoy this video, and remember that if you have any questions to the curriculum or just in general, don't feel shy to just put them in the chat. We're going to collect them, and then we'll share them with the parent or in the breakout rooms as they fit. So please just at any time put any questions you have into the chat, please. Okay, so please enjoy the next section, which is about our Green School curriculum, and I'll see you on the other side for the next section of today. Enjoy.
We're here to give you an overview we say curriculum, but more of what it's like to be here at the Green School throughout a day. So kind of a day in the life. The curriculum has a big part of that and creates the structure around the teaching and learning. But again, the community, the parents, how we interact, all forms what is our mission, which is to be a community of learners making the world sustainable. And this involves students, but this also involves you as parents, involves everyone who interacts here on campus, and together we unite over this mission, and that's what truly drives our learning forward and makes this such a magical and special place to be. The curriculum, again, is the structure and sets the foundation, but all the moving pieces is what truly comes together to make learning here something really special. And what that learning looks like is on this, what I find is a beautiful document. And again, this is my curriculum side of me and organizational side, but this is the Green Literacies Framework, Green School's very own curriculum. There's a portion here that is missing, you can't see everything, but fundamentally there are 6 columns which guide our teaching and learning here at Green School. And they are creativity, quantitative, innovation, communication, regeneration, and connectedness. Now again, if we were going to disseminate this and translate it to what terminologies or subjects you would be more common or more familiar with, we'd have something like the arts, mathematics, science, literacy, regeneration, which is unique to ourselves, and then well-being. And the purpose of this framework is to bring in important learnings from across disciplines and provide the opportunity to integrate concepts across these disciplines to create our courses. So on here you would see common names like algebra or chemistry or reading and writing, but also on here you have concepts like biomimicry and sustainable design and ethics. So all of these form our curriculum that guide and structure the course creation for our classes from early years all the way up to grade 12. But truly what I'd like to emphasize here is it contains aspects of subject matter that you would be familiar with already, but is also focused on concepts that we truly believe our learners need for the future and need to conceptually begin to build and reflect on as we move through the ever-changing world. Now how this looks, that is the what. This is kind of the how. And again, we have 2 focuses really, is the experiential learning and then thematic learning, or what we're moving to now, which is regenerative design. So if you can think of thematic learning as choosing a topic or a theme, you might say, to focus on within a subject. And then your mathematical concepts, your literacy concepts, your science concepts, and your well-being concepts are all interlinked into this theme or thematic throughout the student's learning day. So the biggest takeaway here is that subjects don't sit in silos. You don't go to math class, get up and leave, go to science, get up and leave. What you're trying to do is choose a theme and then find a lens, a mathematical lens, a scientific lens, or a literacy-based lens to focus on within this thematic unit. And this is all directed to real-world issues, looking for opportunities for our students to engage experientially with the world around them. So students within all these courses focus on taking this learning and embodying that in some type of lived experience. So being able to activate all your senses to truly understand and feel what that learning is our concept of experiential learning, which fits within each and every course that we do. Examples of this, or the best example, which is unique to Green School, is our Jalan Jalan program, which exists from grade 1 all the way up to our grade 12 learners. And this is a portion of the week that is specifically dedicated to a project, a community service-based concept, an entrepreneurial learning experience, or an outdoor ed experience. And students are able to elect into something of their passion or something they find interesting that truly puts them out there to experience themselves. That can be on campus, that could be in a classroom, and oftentimes is an excursion off of our campus somewhere in Bali. So these 2 examples here you see our very popular coral restoration class. This is done in scuba diving, like you see on the picture here, but I actually have also run a free diving version of this course. And on the top, you have a community-based project where our students are interacting and engaging at a local school here in Sibang Kaja to share different ideas and initiatives. And then the school also visits us here at Green School so we can get both sides of that experience. Here is a list of all the different Jalan Jalans that exist throughout the school. And again, this is only a snippet of all the options that actually exist. Students will do 4 Jalan Jalans a year. They rotate each term, and we have 4 terms. So we have anything from surfing to bike riding to coding to working with our mangrove section that we have here in the south of Bali. And these are all opportunities that students can choose from based on what interests them and what experience they would like to take away from this. And lastly is our project-based learning. And this isn't something new and not necessarily something ultra unique. Schools around the world all do project-based learning. They focus on it, but they don't do it in a way that puts students at the forefront of these projects. So something we truly want students to aspire to is learning how to take an interest or a passion and be able to go through the steps, sometimes the pains and the challenges of what it is to move that project towards their end goal. And this is highlighted in our capstones in grade 5, 8, and 12, where students work on these projects to a point where they present to the community in a TED Talk style presentations, but share and storytell their journey of what it was like through their whole entire process. And this is where you see an unbelievable amount of growth, and is really when our community comes together to celebrate our young learners who achieve so much during this time. We also have a strong visual, musical, and theatrical arts program. As you can see photos here, we have school bands from primary up to high school. We have plays that run throughout the year. So at different times, we'll have middle school, high school plays and primary theatrical performances. Our music program really integrates where we are here in Bali and Indonesia and gives students exposure to instruments like the gamelan, but also more international instruments like you see here on students playing on the marimba stage. And lastly, physical well-being, which is our physical education program you can consider, but that extends to a sports league on the island and opportunities for students to engage in further physical activities both before school and after school in sports throughout the year. And the school sports that run in our Bali sports organization are basketball, volleyball, football, cross country, track and field, swimming, and athletics. So if your student has any interest in those, there are teams formed each year. We play other schools on the island, and that's summarized in a finals event for each and every one of those sports. We also have a strongly believe in our social emotional learning program. And this isn't a checkbox in our curriculum. This is something that focuses on developing students' awareness of themselves, students' awareness of their relationships with others and the earth, as well as focusing on building those important mindful practices that are really important now with our growing technology in society and students' ability to remain focused and truly be reflective of themselves and their daily processes. So social emotional learning is put in our curriculum to build these skills in our individual learners so that by the time they become young adults, they have been exposed, they have practiced, and they have their own management systems in a lot of these areas to ensure that they are comfortable in their interactions with others, but also understanding themselves as human beings. And lastly, we talk about Green School skills and values. And you might have heard of the I respect skills before, I respect values before, but it is something that really solidifies and aligns our community together. So these values are what drive our community on an aligned understanding of what we expect from one another and what we expect from ourselves. And this is really hard to put on paper. So until you walk around campus, until you see interactions between students and parents, between teachers and teachers, teachers and parents, it's really hard to understand the importance of these values and keeping our community moving in a positive direction. It is truly something beautiful and that I've never experienced anywhere else, is being surrounded by individuals throughout a whole entire day that feel so connected on their core values and what they believe in. So both our I Respect values and our mission do a great job at providing us a North Star as a community to move forward together and really stay connected and look out for one another. And this is where these opportunities extend to you as parents. So we have whole community projects like our Kambali trash sorting system. So there are 17 different categories that we can recycle different rubbish that is brought in by our community, and parents are a part of that process of sorting and helping sort the rubbish that comes in. Our mangrove sanctuary that we maintain, we plant, and we look after the ecosystem that exists there, and parents are more than welcome to become involved in that. And lastly, our BioBus initiative, which takes used cooking oil from different restaurants and facilities around the island, brings it in, we turn it into biodiesel, as well as other products like soaps and shampoos that we can sell off and upcycle what was a waste product, and we can turn it into something useful. A question we always get is, what does this look like week to week for my student? So as a few quick summary slides, if you have an early year student up until middle school, you can imagine 4 hours of a thematics-based class with 4 hours of math and literacy-based concepts supporting that class. And then throughout the week, 2 hours of specialist subjects that include green studies, cultural arts, music, well-being, and Bahasa Indonesia. And then as we move into the high school, you can still imagine 4 hours of math and literacy focused classes, and then everything in high school is an elective. So although their classes are broken up into social studies, science, entrepreneurship, students elect into 12 hours of these classes based on their choice. So they're given electives throughout their school day, and each and every term they're able to choose what classes appeal to them based on the subjects that they're labeled as. There's also 2 hours of well-being, 2 hours of advisory, and of course that 4 hours of that experiential Jalan Jalan program. Hopefully these two videos are specific examples of a middle school experience and a primary experience that will give you more of an insight from the student perspective and from the teacher perspective of what a class could look like here at Green School Bali.
A Green School thematic class is a holistic approach to student-centered, project-based learning. And it includes connections to our proficiencies as well as all of our specialist classes. That includes personal well-being, music, art, and our very own Green Studies class.
We were all super proud and happy when we saw our kids walking down the pebble path, because we were like just squealing with excitement, really.
We're preparing lessons to teach a group of grade 1 students, and we have set up like learning assessment.
The project that I've been working on is doing math with grade 1s.
We're teaching the grade 1s how to make a fire. Because making a fire
you could use
is
if you're
good.
lost in the woods is good. If you're lost in the woods for warmth, cooking food if you're lost.
I have been working on origami for teaching the grade 1 students. Because origami is really special to me because I used to make it since I was really small.
One thing that made us proud is even if we got challenged, we just pushed, and in the end the result was just amazing. I would like to do more projects like this, passing on my passion and inspiring other kids to do great things.
Student takeaways from this thematic unit include an understanding that their ideas and perspectives matter. They'll also have a deeper connection with their community members and an increased sense of confidence to share their learning in larger forums as future change makers.
This class, it's about using sustainable materials, in this case banana fiber paper and bio-epoxy resin, and combining them to make green composites that we can then substitute less green things on our campus with. Learning outcomes are for students always to use their Green School I Respect values and the Green School skills, a select handful of each in this case, but more importantly for students to come to grips with using new materials in an innovative way and a sustainable way. It's about being practical, pragmatic, wanting to make a change, making a difference towards our environment at Green School.
I really like this class because I get to be creative and I can just link this class to my passions and use it for things that I would use in my everyday life.
Hi there and welcome back to us here live from the campus. We hope you enjoyed the video around our curriculum. We can see that some of you already started putting questions into the chat. That's much appreciated. They will be shared with the hosts in the breakout rooms. We can see there are questions coming from everyone about the learning program, some of the Jalan-Jalans, which is the elective courses we offer here at Green School, and what the day looks like for a primary student. So all of that will be addressed during those breakout room sessions that you'll join shortly. Also, of course, some of the questions are maybe more minded for parents, families that have experienced the transition here into our wonderful school in Bali, and we'll save those questions for the very end, where a Green School parent, Joe, will be joining us here on set to answer some of those questions live, but also some of the questions that we've collected from the chat. So the next sections here in our program today is the breakout rooms. But before we put you into the breakout rooms, we'd like to give you just a little hint of what the campus looks like here at Green School Bali, because of course you can see here in the background that we have a wonderful lush jungle, but our campus is very big. It's almost 1 by 1 kilometer, which is very big for a school with 500 students, and we have more than 60 buildings on campus. So getting a touch of and a flavor of what would it be like being here is something that many people are asking about when they join us from afar and considering joining Green School Bali. So we prepared a little video for you, and at the end of this video you'll be put into the breakout rooms. So please enjoy this video giving you a little bit of a campus overview, a tour around together with our head of community Kate and Sal from our teaching staff, who will give you a flavor of the campus, and then you'll be put into the breakout rooms. Remember that you can change between the rooms if you see fit and if you would like, or just let us know in the chat if you want to change, and we can assist you. So thank you very much, everyone. Please enjoy this campus tour video, get a taste of Green School, and enjoy the breakout rooms, and see you on the other side for a very exciting interview with a Green School parent. Thank you.
Hi, I've made my way to the 3rd floor of the Heart of School. The Heart of School is our middle school learning neighbourhood. I'm in a typical bamboo Green School classroom, because you can see there is no walls. All of our classrooms are surrounded by gardens which our students play and learn in. We also have an amazing, beautiful river that's running really loud just down the hill, our solar farms, the iHub, the music centres, art centres, everything here is amazing and provides probably that structural, that physical campus that we know that at Green School Bali helps us bring a learning program to life. Our students are provided the opportunities to not just learn about nature, but learn in nature. We have 4 learning neighbourhoods. Our youngest learners, the early years, up to kindergarten. Primary school, from grades 1 to 5. Middle school, grades 6, 7 and 8. And high school, grades 9 to 12. At Green School, our learning is for now, not for later. It needs to be fun, but it needs to be meaningful, and that looks different in each learning neighbourhood. Our early years program is nature and play-based. Yes, students start to develop literacy and numeracy skills, but it's more important for our youngest learners to develop a connection with nature and a connection with their peers and a connection with their learning. In primary school, our students begin to learn who they are. They discover themselves, and our learning program allows that to happen. It makes that happen. And big projects, little projects, projects in the garden, also strong thematics program connected to nature and sustainability. In middle school learning can become a little bit messy. Our middle school program is set up to allow students to elect certain parts of their learning program. So they have strong literacy and maths classes. They also have an amazing thematics program based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Our grade 8 students at the end of middle school do a capstone project which is based on their own sustainability passion project. In high school, our students are ready to make an impact in the world. Our program allows students to develop the life skills required and the mindsets needed to take action and to use their learning. High school students do a lot of projects. Their culminating project, their Greenstone, is an amazing year-long learning journey where students choose a sustainability-based project and bring that project to life.
This is one of my favourite places on the campus. We're right down here by the river. Behind me is the Ayung, the Great Ayung River, and it powers right through our campus. It's a force of nature. It's also a source of energy. Right here down at the river, we have our very own microhydro system, the Green School Vortex. And this vortex provides a majority of the power that we use here on the campus, and it forms part of Operation Rain or Shine. So along with our other renewable energy systems, we try and offer a range of different learning opportunities for our children to see all the different ways Mother Nature can help power our campus, our community, and the world. Clean, renewable, and reliable energy. I'm here on the top floor of the heart of school, and this is home base for our middle schoolers. And you can see behind me here some of our renewable energy technologies. We really love the idea at Green School that the whole campus is a classroom, the whole campus is a laboratory, and that we can innovate and we can find solutions to real problems right here on the campus. This solar system here is part of Operation Rain or Shine, which was a high school-led initiative that's ongoing, looking at understanding and implementing different types of clean, reliable, renewable energy right here on our campus. Everyone in our community has a part to play in making our world sustainable, starting right here on the campus. We have in our main car park our waste recycling centre, so all families can bring their recyclables there, sorted, to be responsibly moved on to recyclers on the island. But the very best of that trash we keep right here on the campus because this is a resource for learning. So in this area here in our Community Innovation Hub is Kambali. And in Kambali we have resources here that can be used. So some of these products can be used raw for projects here on the campus that the students are involved in. But we also have some really cool equipment in here. So we can take certain types of plastics and they can be processed into filament like this that can be further processed into a form that we can put into molds. So you can literally bring in some plastic trash and leave with a plate or a fork or a bowl or something useful. We've even had kids make recycled surfboard fins, which are really expensive here. So very cool product, limited only to the imagination. Here we are at the Human Resources Centre, otherwise known as the toilets. This is one example of our composting toilet system that we have at Green School. Composting toilets don't need to be nasty. We have a fantastic odourless, waterless, chemical-free system that takes human waste and turns it into organic matter that can go back into the earth in a really safe way. These toilets are really beautiful. Our parents helped design these structures. So they're super friendly, they're actually a work of art and really inviting even for the tiniest of people. That's our take on composting toilets at Green School. Just pulling up in the garage, friends. We ride in style and sustainably at Green School. Our BioBus transport service normally operates 5 days a week, taking our children to school and back home again in the afternoons. Our BioBuses run on used cooking oil, which the students are involved in collecting from hotels and restaurants around Bali. So it helps them dispose of used cooking oil in a responsible way, and it powers our buses. I'm not actually allowed to drive the BioBus, but I am allowed to use this. So for any families who don't ride the BioBus and have a diesel vehicle, they can fill their car up right here on the campus at the biodiesel pump station. As well as the biodiesel bus service and the pump station in the car park to fill up your diesel vehicle, we also have electric charge stations here on the campus. So electric motorbikes are a growing option for transport around Bali, and you can plug in right here. We're entering primary school, and in primary school every class has their own set of gardens that they work with. In the upper school, the students work with more cooperative gardens and working with permaculture principles to grow things that are beautiful but also that are edible and medicinal. And right here in primary at a grade 1 classroom, we can see in the garden here we've got corn, we've got papaya, we've got bananas, we've got flowers bringing the bees and the butterflies, and of course always so quintessentially Bali, the lemongrass. Our campus is wild. It's intentionally rugged. We design it this way. This is great for kids, gross motor skills, but also their cognitive development. So everything is designed by intention, but we work with what is already here. On my left here, you can see these beautiful springs. This is where we hold special ceremonies during the year. It's quite a sacred place on the campus. It's really calm and very peaceful. On my right, in contrast, this pit of mud comes to life because this is the Green School Mud Pit. It's a really popular place on the campus. So yes, our children get in here. It's like baby elephants on a hot day, cooling down in the mud and the water. Also, while I'm here, over there is Grasshopper Grove. This was named by our early years students because this is a great place to go if you want to find grasshoppers, dragonflies and butterflies. No two buildings on the Green School campus are the same. Every single one of them is unique. Every single one of them is also a work of art. We're here in the Green School Yoga Studio. This beautiful space comes to life when the children come in here for yoga sessions. Nothing is more beautiful than stopping in here and watching the 3-year-olds take yoga. It is pure joy. It's a beautiful space. I can hear the river behind me here. There's a gentle breeze coming through here. It's a very, very serene and special place on our campus. When we think about well-being at Green School, we think about the whole person, the social, the emotional, and of course the physical, and not just the individual child or the individual community member, but the whole community. This behind me is the Ark. This is our community centre and our sports centre. So what goes on in here? This is a place that we gather that holds us for recreation, for presentations, and for celebrations. This is the Ark.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the breakout rooms and that you got a chance to talk to our educators and finding out what it's like being here in Bali. We know that families on the other side of the screen have a million questions, and that's all super normal. Everyone here on campus have had the same transition as all of you, so please just keep the questions coming. And at the end, we will have some opportunities that I will just outline in terms of opportunities to continue the conversation. So it's not all over when today's session is over. So stay tuned for those options to keep in touch with us. Now we're transitioning to the final section of today. We are joined here on campus with one of our Green School parents. Welcome.
Thank
Joe,
you.
To the campus setting here in Bali, and
Happy
we
to
are
be here.
super thrilled to have you join us here for the virtual open day. So maybe for start, could you talk to us a little bit about your family, where you're from,
Yep.
when you joined the Green School.
Yep. So I'm Jo. I'm originally from England, but I've been living in Vancouver, Canada for the last 19 years. So I have 2 kids at the Green School now, one in grade 3 and one in grade 6. So grade 6 is the beginning of middle school here. So we came to Bali, excuse me, I'm in my first year. So we're in our first year here. Just almost wrapping up. It was only supposed to be a year's adventure, but we have just recommitted for another year, like so many folks that come here for 1 year.
Yeah, okay. So I know that many of the questions that you've asked during the session today, as promised, we've captured them, we've saved them, so we are ready to talk to Jo about any of the questions that you had. So, Christina, I know you've collected a few of them.
Yes, and they were
please keep them coming.
Absolutely.
You are able to ask questions live by putting them in the chat. So if there's anything that you would like us to talk to Jo about, then please just let us know and we'll try to put it into the talk.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Matt. And also, so the breakout room, the Living in Bali session, that was really lively just then, and we had lots of questions that I think Jo can answer as well.
Okay.
So lots of questions always about housing. So everybody wants to know, how do you find your house? Do you start your search from overseas, online, connections? Do you want to just tell a little bit about your experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, people do it differently. I remember being advised when we knew we were into the school. I think we found out in the January before we were coming for the August start. We were advised not to pick somewhere before we got on island, and I honestly think that's a great piece of advice. So what we ended up doing was booking an Airbnb in Ubud, because we had a sense that, we weren't sure, were we going to be the Ubud crowd or we were going to be the beach crowd? We weren't sure, but we'd been to Ubud before, and so we just booked a month in an Airbnb there, which gave us a little bit of runway to kind of work out what our area was, explore some of the different places. And I think actually being able to see houses in the flesh is really important. So we did find that there was a fair amount of housing available at the time, because I think a lot of people are doing that.
Yes, and did you find the answer? Are you a beach or Ubud crowd?
I'm an Ubud person.
Yeah, okay.
It turned out, I genuinely thought we were going to be beach, because I was I had this picture of the surfing and every morning on the beach, and because I love the ocean. But I don't know, there's just something about the Ubud vibe that is more us.
Lovely. It's also interesting, I think, that once you're there, because you can't really picture what the commute is like, what the environment is like until you get here, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I mean, the beach is amazing. Mads lives towards the beach, or very close to the beach, but it's, commuting every morning to the school is also something that you need to factor in, right? So,
and speaking of that, in Canada, we were walking distance from our school. So actually the first place that we thought we were going to live was in Sabang, because there's a lot more accommodation now, I think, than there has been previously. Yeah. And so originally we thought that we were going to live here. Yeah. But in the end, again, it's expect what you thought was going to happen and what actually happened. In the end, we wanted somewhere a little bit more lively to live, and then we knew we could come to the school and be in this environment as much as we wanted.
We actually also find that a lot of families with younger children find it quite convenient to live really close by. But as you said, it is a quiet area, which is lovely. But if you have, a 3 or 4 year old, that's all you need, because they're exhausted by the afternoon.
That
you
is
don't
true.
need much to entertain them. But you have a primary school and middle schooler.
9 and 11.
So how do you find already the activities at the moment, coordinating and getting around? What does your normal routine look like? Do you want to share a little bit about that?
So the kids have got into quite different things. My son has played soccer or football, depending on where you're from in the world. And so he joined a local team in Ubud, the Ubud Raptors. So he's been doing some soccer. My daughter has actually just picked up circus. So just where we live, there's this circus intensive that is offered, and so she did ballet and things back in Canada, but we didn't find a ballet thing that she loved. So she's just suddenly picked up, so she's climbing these silks up to 15 feet in the air and then hanging upside down, but it's incredible. There's all these different things that you can try. The after-school activities offered by the school are like nothing I've ever seen before in terms of what would be offered by a school. So there's tons of options. I mean, Seb's done engineering. Millie's done beading. There was an investment one last term. It's just there's so much on offer, and because of the school bus as well that my kids take, they can still get the bus home after the after school activity, and so it just makes that super easy for us. It means we're not constantly back and forth trying to pick them up and stuff. So.
That's a really good point as well. I actually need to get your contacts for because Marley, my daughter, who's in Millie's grade, is desperate to join the circus because everybody talks about these silks now, but it's just amazing.
I mean, it's wild. I actually don't go to the training because it's a little terrifying that she's upside down, only held in by her feet. But
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, she's confident.
Good
so
for her. Maybe the ballet helped a bit of that
I think
training
so,
as well. There have been a lot of questions also about healthcare. So do you want to share a little bit maybe what your experience was like? Did you get an international insurance? And what's your daily? What's your
hopefully not
like?
daily.
I was about to say I hope you don't use it daily. No. But what's your experience with the healthcare here in Bali?
Yeah, so we did get health insurance obviously, but we opted for the one that was just for inpatient care. So if you end up having to go into a hospital and be in a hospital, because we were advised that the outpatient care is pretty affordable here. And we really have found it to be true. Like within 2 weeks of being here, my son and I both had ear infections. Actually, I arrived with an ear infection. So, and obviously flying from Canada to here with an ear infection is not advisable. But when you have your flights booked, you get on the flight. So, we used a local clinic in Ubud who actually came to us. Which was amazing, and they came to us and they had all of the equipment. They spoke incredible English. My son actually fractured a bone in his foot a couple of months ago, and again we got incredible treatment through that. So relatively inexpensive and just so smooth compared to my experience in Canada, to be honest, in terms of getting in with a doctor. And so far the experience of their English and the care that we're getting has been really, really good.
Okay, that's great feedback. And again, we hope that most families will never use it or need it, but it's just something that when you travel or when you move somewhere with the families, good to understand. And we do have also a lot of families who take out international insurance that if there is an emergency, that covers also travel to Singapore and Thailand as well.
Yeah, we did that.
So which is quite useful to have as well, because the health insurance here and the healthcare sector is improving and developing.
Definitely.
Especially with the increased demands, and there's a lot of more hospitals being built, and there's a lot of more resources developing here. But I think there's still that option always to fly to other areas if need be, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. We got that just to be sure.
Okay, fantastic. Let me just go through some more questions that I haven't missed anything yet. So there was the question that was in the breakout room as well. How do families connect with each other? How do you make friends? Because obviously a lot of families come here for maybe a year or two and leave their family and friends behind. Did you find it difficult at all? Or
it's interesting because obviously I moved to Canada 20 years ago, so I've done the international move. I mean, I was in my 20s and I didn't have children back then, so it was a bit different. I think one thing that my husband and I did underestimate is what it's like to be new again. So you are in a new place, everything is unfamiliar. We've only lived long term in Western countries, and so things are. I think what I would say is give yourself grace in the first month or so, because you're here, it is wonderful, and you don't have your support network. You don't know where to buy the regular things that you would buy. That said, there are some incredible WhatsApp groups. The proliferation of WhatsApp groups that you will have when you get here is wild. But I'm in the Green School Ubud families chat, and if you need anything, you're like, I saw somebody post the other day, where do I find this kind of battery? And someone always has an answer. So you can get your kind of help from that perspective. But in terms of making friends, I mean, the school does an incredible job with new families, I have to say. There were a couple of activities before we started school. So I believe there was like a springboard day and then there was orientation. And so that's 2 opportunities where all the new families are together in the lead up. So I would say definitely come before the start of school to actually meet all the new families. gives the kids an opportunity to see faces, so that when they start their first day of school, not everybody is a stranger. But for the parents, that's actually where we met some of our closest friends, and that's how we ended up finding places to stay as well. So yeah, the school does a really good job. I'm compared to my experience living in Canada, the school parent community is a lot more active than any parent community that I've been part of so far. So you have lots of opportunities to meet people. The GSPA put on activities. There's Spirit Friday every second Friday, where you have the whole school assembly, and then there's the local vendors come in and sell things. Like, the joy on those days is just, I just remember my first one sitting in the Ark, or standing at the back of the Ark with the whole school there, and there's a live band, and there are kids up the front talking, and kids are moving around, and nobody is like, shh, like, sit down, sit still. Like, it looks like no assembly I ever participated in as a kid. But there's lots of opportunities like that to meet
it's
people.
difficult to get the kids home on a Friday.
Yes.
The same. Yeah, I'm usually kind of waiting.
Well,
like,
absolutely. They disappear as well. Like, they disappear, like, playing with their friends somewhere. It's lovely.
Lovely. Yes. Yeah, I think that's something that, the community is so unique, because we really do have, I think about 85% of our families are moving here because of the school.
Yeah.
So it creates a really unique bond between families.
And everybody's so open.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, when we moved to Vancouver, a lot of people in Vancouver have their people,
of course,
right? You know, they've born and bred there. They've got their group. They don't necessarily need new folks, but it's just not like that here. Everybody is interested in learning more about you, meeting new people. So yeah, I found it tremendously open. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, I love we got chickens and chicks.
I hope they come into view. I'm not sure. A couple of practical questions. What are the main 3 things that you need to pack before coming to Bali? Can be as practical as mosquito spray, maybe, or
we did. Sunscreen. Bring your favorite sunscreen. Bring lots of your favorite sunscreen, because that was a piece of advice we got, and I actually, every time I go, like, we went back to England for Christmas and we bought more there, because I just find the quality of it is better, and it's very expensive here. So sunscreen was definitely one. If you've got products that you love, I mean, probably speaking more to the women, bring them, because that you might not be able to get them here. Swimsuits as well, weirdly. You would think, living in Bali and the fact that swimsuits are an all year round thing, that you'd be able to find loads. But I have not found that to be the case for my kids, and because they're in the pool so much, they go through them so quickly. So yeah, bring backup swimsuits. I would say. For sure.
Actually, I can give you some details of where to buy good quality swimsuits, but they are expensive here. So there's and some of them are from recycled material, and they're fantastic, but they're not cheap. So that might be something, if you have a trusted brand from back home, that might be something to bring. I might add, and I'm sorry to kind of destroy the Bali dream, but head lice products, anything that you think might work at home, bring it with you.
I mean, we're both grade 3 parents, and grade 3 this year has been, I mean, unbelievable.
It's a thing.
Like, we've never experienced head lice until this year, but what I will say, funnily enough, the school that my kids were at in Canada is also experiencing head lice this year.
It's not an isolated incident.
No,
it's not a green school problem only. And I can say so because my son attends a different school here in Bali, and they have exactly the same problem. So it's not, sometimes we say, oh, it's a green school. It's not just a green school problem. I think it's definitely a Bali, but if it's in Canada, it's happening at the moment.
It's weirdly happening there too. Yeah. The one thing that we didn't do, which isn't about bringing with you, but it's more about when you arrive. When we arrived, we came straight to Ubud, straight to our Airbnb, because we were in the mindset that we needed to get here and immediately get on to, like, looking for places to stay and sorting ourselves out. And I think it was a mistake. I think we should have given ourselves a few days at the beach to just kind of decompress from, because moving a family across internationally is big. So I would, if I did it again, I would give ourselves a few days just to decompress, just to kind of be here before, because to be honest, those days we didn't use for practical things anyway. We just kind of piled stress on ourselves. And so yeah, give yourselves a few days to decompress before you start thinking about the practical things that you have to do, like accommodation and stuff.
That's a really, really good tip, isn't it? Because sometimes I think when you kind of uproot everything from where you're moving from, you kind of just want to be settled again, and you feel like, okay, you don't want to be stuck in limbo, you want to be, you know, rooted again, but to give yourself that time. And Bali is such a unique place anyhow that it takes time.
It does.
I mean, it's our 3rd year now as a family here in Bali, and we are still, I would say now this year I'm feeling a little bit more settled, but it's with the seasons and the, you know, it's still changing, you know, you still have new experiences, new things that you need to get used to again, and kind of everything realigns again after a few months, so it takes some time.
Agreed.
Yeah, those are really good tips. Anything else that you've, I was just given the kind of 5 minutes or less, anything else that you think is a good advice for prospective families or considering Green School that you would like to share?
I mean, I don't know about advice. I will just say in terms of like the difference that we're experiencing for the kids is, like, my son is grade 6, which in Canada is still elementary school, and his experience, like, he's been complaining of being bored in school since grade 3. And so we've been searching for, I mean, we even put him in French immersion, or put them both in French immersion to try and make it harder for them, sort of thing, so they wouldn't be bored. But his experience coming here and the middle school experience of the electives they get to choose, the experiential learning in the Jalan Jalan on a Friday. So he loves football, like I said, and he got to do, on a Friday, he got to choose to do sports science in the morning and then go and train with the Bali United football team, like with a professional football coach. And so those kind of opportunities that the kids are getting, my kids both were in the school plays in the first term, and again, not offered at all in their school. I had no idea that my children were interested in acting. I mean, we should have known from our daughter, really, but we didn't. They'd never had that opportunity before. And so to see them like advocate for themselves and just get involved and just come home and tell us what they were doing was wild. Like, I think they're really encouraged to kind of advocate for themselves here. So
amazing.
That was good.
It is, and I mentioned this in the introduction earlier as well with Mads. It is interesting to see that development in your children, isn't it? To go through where they kind of really take in all the experiences, and they're not always all good days. Sometimes, you know, the kids come home and it's hot and they might be hungry and it's exhausting and there might be mosquitoes, but that's all part of it, isn't it? But I think there's so much agency that children, students have here that is just so, you know, it's such a big contrast to what they've had before. So it's, you feel like even it's just a year, but they've grown, you know.
Tremendously. Like, it'd be really interesting to see when we go back how that differs.
That's a really also, and I know we have to wrap up soon, but that's a question that we get a lot about families who are returning to either their home country or moving on to another country. Sometimes families have concerns about reintegrating into a more traditional school system or just, you know, the community back at home. Is that something that you are considering at the moment? That how do you find that? And are you worried about it at all?
I mean, one of the reasons we're actually staying for an extra year is because it allows my son to finish grade 7 here, which then means he gets to go into high school when he goes home. Because I really feel like, particularly for him and his experience, it's so different to elementary school, that the idea of him going back into one classroom, one teacher, no choices, no, like, he gets a lot, he gets to move around the school very freely here. Like, I just felt like that would be a year of kind of waiting to go to high school. And so for him, that was a driving factor for us staying. I do wonder about it. I mean, we do intend to go home. So I guess we'll have to see, but I'm not. It'll be really interesting. I think so. Lovely. You mentioned advice though. One piece of advice was we did work with Ganesha, who were the visa agency that the Green School works closely with, and we found them to be really great at making sure that we had everything when we needed to have it, because that's obviously one of the practical things that you have to get done.
Yes, and that
do
was
give
the
them
question.
time though.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially this time of year when they
Yes.
have a lot of interest from
Yeah.
new families. But that's a question that we had in the breakout room, and I can just repeat it quickly, that if you are offered a place at Green School, you can actually take that offer letter and go to Ganesha or a similar agency and start applying for the student visa.
Yep.
And then now it's a fairly new arrangement that's been in place for about a year or so. Then the parents can actually piggyback on that
Yeah.
student visa and stay for the same amount of time. Is
Yeah.
that visa
That's what we
you're
that's
using?
what we did.
It's
Yeah,
the
it was
easiest,
brand
yeah.
new, I think, for when we were looking.
Yeah,
So-
it makes it a lot easier because
Yes.
before then, families had to do, I think, 60 days and
Yep.
then extend again
And
so,
leave and-
yeah,
yeah.
it's a lot of hassle. But now it allows you to stay for the same amount that the student visa is valid, and you renew every year. Is
That's
that what
right.
you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or you can do 2 years. Like if you know we were offered a 1 or 2, but because at
Okay.
the time we thought we were only doing 1, we just
Okay.
did 1, and we're in the process of renewing for next year.
Wonderful. I think we've covered a lot of
All right.
practical and philosophical advice here.
Yeah.
It's very good. I think we've covered most of the questions. I do apologize if we haven't, if we've missed yours. This is a new role for me here, so to co-host with Matt. So I haven't done this before, so I try to multitask, which is not my forte. Matt, I think we have a couple of more information on how to stay in touch with us.
Yes, exactly. So thank you everyone, and thank you Joe for joining us here on set today. And thank you for hanging in there. I know we are a little bit over time, but we really wanted to give you an opportunity to get some inputs from one of our parents here at Green Schools.
So I grew up in Asia for most of my life. I grew up in Singapore, and then I traveled around the world a bit, and ended up in Singapore again with my kids, and for 7 years. And I was an accountant, and then I started a company, and then we grew that company, and I sold the company while we were in Singapore. And so I thought, all right, I'm going to have to, take a break. And so we thought, let's go to Bali. A lot of the parents we see here come for the school. So they see Green School is amazing, and then they come to Bali for that. But we actually came to Bali and looked at all the schools. And then I thought, look, if we're going to come to Bali, we're going to go full weirdo. So we chose the Green School. Yeah. And we said, we're going to do it for 1 year, and then we're going to return to Singapore. And that was 7 years ago. So we've been here 7 years. I've got 3 kids. Layla's started in Geckos in the very first year, and she's now in grade 4. Leo's in grade 7, and Lucia's in grade 9. So I've got primary, middle, and upper school. So I've seen the whole sort of thing. But we really love it here.
And you came from a quite traditional international school in Singapore then. And as you mentioned, you've looked at different schools in Bali as well. So what at the time was it, besides then going just weirdo, but what was it that you thought, okay, this is going to be something that my children are going to experience at Green School, that you came here for, even if it was just a year initially?
Well, I mean, I went to United World College in Singapore, and then my kids got into UWC as well when we were in Singapore. And so at that point I thought, well, game over, it's really great because UWC is a great, great school. Yeah. I know from being an entrepreneur, and my company had sort of 300 people in at the end, and I could see that the really interesting folks were the ones who lived kind of weird lives, right? And a lot of the time that was moving from one country to another country. And so I thought, let's have a kind of a different experience and go and live in Bali. When we came here, and the kids loved the Green School very quickly. And so 1 year turned into 2, and that's then turned into 7. I knew what IB was like because I did IB in UWC. And a lot of the other schools in Bali do the IB. But I think we thought, look, if you're trying to get into college by getting the highest possible grades, then you're going to want to be in United World College Singapore, not in one of the schools in Bali. And I sort of, as an entrepreneur, like to look at things a little bit differently, and I sort of looked into the future a little and thought, I don't think that the traditional model of education is serving the kids, and so my views sort of were molded by the Green School. And so we've, never in my life would I have thought to myself, maybe the kids wouldn't go to university. Yeah. But there's a guy I'm working with here who graduated, and he's gone straight into a company, and I'm sort of telling him, don't go to university because his company's doing super well. And so it really is a different way of thinking at the Green School. And I think it's really positive for all 3 of my kids and from the other students that I've
There's
seen.
actually so many questions that come out of that as well. And I know we need to get to the parent questions, but there's a couple of things that I think are really, really great for you to share with families here, because you are taking on a mentor role here yourself as well in school, and you actually have been told that you're actually teaching a class yourself as well now. So do you want to share a little bit about your involvement in the school and with students?
I mean, I was helping out with a Jalan Jalan,
Yeah.
which is sort of the elective. And in this case, I think, Benjamin, head of the upper school, middle and up school, said to the students, what do you want more of? And they went, entrepreneurship. And then he contacted me and said, do you want to help with this? Because when I sold my company, I started a little fund, which was an impact VC fund. Yeah. So I helped companies start and grow. It's called Mangosteen. And so I had seen a lot of startups. And so I said I'm not an educator. My mum and my sisters are. And so I said, all right, let's try this. And so I taught a high school class. It was 4 hours every Wednesday. And I remember thinking, because my mum and sister are teachers, and I remember thinking, what an easy thing it is to be a teacher. But then after my first class, I was like, and it was really draining, especially high school age, right? Because they mess around a lot.
Yeah.
But we just, when I looked at the curriculums of sort of A-levels and IB, because I was thinking, Christ, how do I teach this? I'm going to have to see how other people teach it. I didn't really like anything that I saw. And so I just thought I'd teach, what we used to do at my old company, which was it was a tech company, but it was design thinking, right? Yeah. How do you come from a position of design thinking to come up with products and so on and so forth? How do we do that through an eco lens? How do we look at sort of what nature does? I mean, everyone knows the story of how Velcro was a thing they saw in nature. What else is there like that out there? And then I said to the students, let's just start some companies. And then we sort of split them up into 2 groups or 4 groups, and each group started a company. They loved competing against each other. It was kind of fun. And we just went through, what I knew startups did, right? We didn't do a business plan. We did a lean canvas, and we did a lot of design thinking before we started doing things. We thought, how do businesses work and succeed? And what I saw a lot of before I came was a lot of eco businesses thinking how to be as eco as possible, which was fantastic, but there wasn't really a business case. There was a plastic that was made of seaweed that cost 10 times as much as plastic. And you know what I mean? That there's no business there. Yeah. And so I was sort of trying to nudge them into the balance of what that is. And I would say one of the things that is going to be extremely important in the world of AI is being able to grab teams, get them together, motivate them, come up with ideas, inspire people, be in a little team. And so Green School really breeds eco-entrepreneurs. I've seen it in the older guys that I mentor, I see it in the classes that I teach, and I can see it in my kids. Everyone's sort of thinking, how would this work as a business? And that's important, right? I don't know if I'd be going into jobs in law, for example, because AI is going to just eat that. But it won't, there's certain things that it won't, take over. And I think those things is what I see Green School being very good at.
And I think, and you as a parent of 3 can speak to that really, because it still covers a really diverse spectrum, doesn't it? And I can imagine, so I'm a mum of 2, and my kids are completely polar opposite in way of what they're interested in, how they learn, how they process information. So you mentioned that Green School's been really great for all your 3 children. How have you seen that has brought out different things in them and helped them develop differently?
Yeah, I mean, it was, we were in Singapore recently, and we went into this shop and got some good honey. And then Leo, my son, who's now 13, just started talking all about honey and what the bees did and how the bees interacted and what and he just had kind of a lot of knowledge about that. And you'll find sometimes they'll have really interesting knowledge about nature and associating that with other things. And so, yeah, it's kind of a, even we'd be walking through, the jungle. I live in Ubud, and Layla would pick something up and make a little thing with it that she'd learnt off people at the school, which is kind of fun. I mean, mostly I think when I think how my kids are doing, they just, they have a lot of friends, they're having fun. Sometimes, I suppose the issue some people may have is if you had 2 or 3 kids and one doesn't fit with the Green School, some kids don't necessarily fit in, and that's quite difficult for some parents because they think, oh Christ, one kid, and in fact there's a few families where one kid has gone to CCS and is doing really well there because they prefer the structure. But there are some kids who really thrive here, and then the parents can never, leave. And so I think, to some of the new parents, one of the things that I sometimes see, which is difficult for people, is they come here for 1 or 2 years and they really want to stay longer. but it's not that easy to work in Bali sometimes, and so stretching that time can be tricky.
Yeah.
But what I'd also say, I said this to a parent the other day who's leaving after 2 years. 2 years is a good time to get the weirdness of Bali and green school into the heads of the kids and you. And you go back. I've caught up with my friend Morten, who went back to Norway, and he just said the kids got back into school in Norway fine, but they were a little different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's good to be a little different, to sort of, for your brain to think there's different ways that the world does things. It's not all like it is in Holland or America or Norway. It's different, and that's been really super interesting.
And I completely agree with that. So I'm actually not sure if you know, but I've got 2 kids, and my son actually attends a different school because of that reason, because it's not the right fit for him at the moment. And I think he's 12 years old, and he does better in a more traditional curriculum school because he needs a structure right now. And this environment, even though it is nurturing and it can be really grounding and therapeutic for some, for him it would be completely sensory overload. And for him at this time, it just wouldn't be the right environment. So he does really well where he is. But my daughter, I've moved her from that same school a year ago, and I can see the growth that she's done in grade 3. And even if I would take her out right now, I know that she will take that with her. And, that kind of the transition she's made as a 9-year-old now, to see that whatever she does has an impact on the environment, on the community, positive or negative. That is massive for a 9-year-old to know, right? And that's a power that she now takes with her. So I can see that that transitions everywhere, right? Sorry, I go into as a parent mode, sometimes a very passionate mum. We do have a couple of questions that I want to ask you. So I just want to go through. Sorry, I am not used to multitasking, so this is a new role for me. So just give me a moment to kind of get through the questions.
One thing that I have
please.
Had a lot of people ask me about is sports. and 7 years ago when we came to the Green School, there was sports, but it wasn't really a thing that they had pushed. They had a really great head of sports called Pat, who did a great job of bringing in a volleyball instructor called Pak Ledin, who actually teaches, who played for Indonesia. So he's an Indonesian national player. And he really lifted the whole girls volleyball team in which my daughter was in. And they practiced, a couple of times a week, and then they requested, can we practice in the mornings? Never in a million years would someone from Green School usually get up, but they would all get up and come here at 7 in the morning to do the before school practice. And then we managed to join a competition in Malaysia, and then the year after that in Thailand, against all the big schools, UWC, Nexus, Shrewsbury, and all the sort of each school had 2,000, 3,000 kids in it. Green School has about 500. And they won, the tournaments. It was really amazing. And I saw what's happened, volleyball really took off in the school, and you can see everyone playing it now. Football, soccer is very well catered for in Bali and in the school. Not all sports are. So if you come here and you were a hockey player, there really isn't any hockey in Bali. There's not really any rugby. But, what you do get is some weirdos coming to Bali. My daughter's swim coach is Michael Klim, who was the Olympian from Australia and world record holder. So he's, one of the legendary swimmers of the world is her swim instructor. And there's a guy called Brandon who teaches at a club called SBK, which is a football academy that my son Leo plays for. And Brandon played with David Beckham and is teaching really world-class sports. So I think I had a worry when I came here, oh my goodness, my kids are really into sports. But I would say part of the reason we can't leave Bali is, one, the kids love Green School so much, but two, they really are getting very good at those sports. And I never thought, because we weren't really big sports people, my wife and I, but now Lucia and Leo, my 2 eldest, are both doing 8 times a week swimming and 8 times a week football.
That's incredible.
It's a lot, it's intense,
Yeah.
but they're at a level where it can be that intense.
Yeah.
And I think that there are some trade-offs you do have in Bali, but there are some weird things like that where you get these real world-class sports people on your doorstep.
Yeah.
And the school has been very, very good to sort of often Leo has to leave early to go and play his football games, and they're extremely flexible with that. And I see in other schools they aren't, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, well, thank God I'm in Green School, because, that sort of flexibility is, they're understanding with that sort of thing. And I think they recognize that there's more to education than, being in at a certain time in a certain place, and they know that what he's learning there, in the mornings and the evenings is important too. So I think that's something that was a surprise to me, that it wasn't really a trade-off. There was some areas where it did level up, but what I would say is, pick the sports. Volleyball is amazing. What is Indonesia good at? Volleyball, badminton, football, and sort of be a bit flexible with how you progress in those.
I think it's a great example how you kind of create the demand then after a while as well. So I think you mentioned that there at the moment is not a really strong rugby community yet, but I've spoken to more and more families now who really want to bring that over. And I think that's something that I'm hoping, because my daughter is really into rugby at the moment, that's something that will develop over the time as well. So I think there's a bit more rather than getting a no, that's not possible, there's more people who are just willing to support you, as you mentioned, the school being supportive and trying to find ways to make it happen, right?
There's a lot of Aussies, and they love the rugby. I used to play, when I first arrived, I played touch rugby with the dads. And then we went and played in a little tournament against sort of 20-year-olds and realised that we were no longer 20 ourselves. But yeah, no, there's, and look, that was another thing that you notice, when Benjamin said, do you want to come and teach entrepreneurship? And I hadn't before. There's really an open door for that sort of stuff, and I actually think it works well. We had good feedback from the class, and it was, I think that too often you sort of have the parents a little bit shut away from the school, and here, we're on campus because there's a co-working space there, and so, it's not just individual mentors or some of those classes. A lot of the kids come up to me and go, I've got this idea for a business, what do you think? Sometimes I'll say, that sounds good, do this, this and this, and other times I'll say, that doesn't sound very good, don't do it. But having guys like me on campus, and there's loads of other people, there's a lot of kids here who love fashion, and there was a woman, Nicola Glass, who used to work with Michael Kors, and she was the main person doing his whole line of handbags and accessories, and having that sort of knowledge here to be able to talk to the students, and Tony Fidel, who invented the iPod, will do a talk in the Sandcap because his kids were here. You don't often get that sort of community, and that's really interesting when you hear from those sort of guys.
Today we are not only hosting all of you in the live show here on our virtual open day, we also have a visit from a photography team who is documenting some of our buildings, and then we have a visit from a group of seed investors and entrepreneurs that we are co-hosting at the very same time. So one of the things that they asked you about just half an hour ago, Luke, is something about how the parent community get involved as mentors that you just spoke to, and those final projects. And I know that you were also involved in teaching a class around that. Can you speak to how you see that has evolved, and how did you get involved as a parent yourself?
Yeah, and look, I became a chartered accountant when I finished school because my uncle was one, and he said, why don't you do this? And when we were in United World College in Singapore, the archetype of the parent there is sort of a banker father and a trailing spouse mum, or a consultant, and so the first thing I did when I was in United World College was said, right, how can I go and talk to these kids? And so there was an open day, a careers day, so I went in there and talked about entrepreneurship, but it was quite structured, and most schools would say, put up your hand if you want a mentor, and then they'll try and work it out. But what happens here in the Green School is I was just working in the bridge, which is the co-working space, and the kids would come up and talk to me, and I say, pop in, I'm just over there, and it would sort of happen naturally, right? So it wasn't forced, and I think if you force it, it doesn't always happen, because a lot of the students wouldn't come up and sort of sign up to tell you things. They would happen to be upon you, and one of their friends was talking, and then they would come in and say, oh, by the way, I've got this idea as well. So I was sitting in the co-working space, and Freddie came and talked to a guy called Cesare, who's a very great tech CTO, because he was talking about the tech involved in the projects he was doing. And then Cesare said, oh yeah, Luke was talking to me about something similar, why don't you go talk to Luke? So then I talked to Freddie, and then me and Freddie started a company together. And we grew that company a little bit. I think we made a couple of $100,000 in revenue, which was awesome for a school kid. And then we went to Singapore, and Freddie pitched it to Sequoia. Sequoia never answered my calls, but they did answer his calls. He's like, look, there's an 18-year-old boy. And so we went, talked to a load of VCs, and then that sort of relationship progressed. And there was a company that I started in Melbourne, which is a little AI startup, and they needed someone who was good at sales. And I said, Freddie, why don't you go down to Melbourne for 3 months and just hang out with these guys? And now they've hired him as a co-founder, given him a small share of the company, and he just raised $2.5 million from a big VC down in Australia, and he's working for that company in Melbourne now. And that's a real, very interesting, thing that happened from a little serendipitous meeting that happened with me in the bridge. A little bit of work, started a company, moved him to a different company, and there's a few kids like that you can see. There was another kid called Finn who was I knew he was going to be good at sales, so I have a little investment in a company called Barley Rain, which is a sort of a kombucha company, and I said, hey, why don't you go run my kombucha stand at this event? And he did a really good job of it, and it wasn't sort of the biggest thing, but it was just being organized, getting all the things done. And so the smallest thing is telling the students, you can have your own little company, do a little t-shirt company, or whatever it is. Yeah. But the biggest thing is Freddie now sitting in that company, which is worth, $20-30 million, having just raised a load of money, and now they've hired 5 people, and they're going to go and, attack that space, and that's very, very interesting. And that's what I really want for a lot of the Green School kids. Is just to sort of, even if they're really little, what's the little business that you could do? Well, it's selling things at the Spirit. Every 2 weeks they have a Spirit Friday, and so the little kids are selling things. Maybe they're selling their old stuff, or one of them was making beeswax candles and sold those. You just learn, about what it means to be a little entrepreneur, and then that grows and grows and grows. And I've been very impressed with a lot of the kids here.
Yeah, and again, that's now Luke is talking about how to become an entrepreneur, and that's definitely a thing that is embedded in our program. But I think it's also worth mentioning that when you are in your final year of primary, middle, or high school, so that would be in grades 5, 8, and 12, you are embarking on a journey where you do what we call a capstone project. So that's a big project that you are basically asked to choose your own topic based on passions, and you have the opportunity to chip into and use those parent resources that Luke spoke to, and get a mentor. And those projects can be about anything. It doesn't have to be founding a business. It can also be about how you make sure that the beaches of Bali gets cleaned up better, or how to make artwork. There's a multitude of different options. The most important thing is that you're passionate about your project, and you are embarking on that journey to create a change for other people than just yourself.
And you learn how to present it.
Yes.
Right. You learn how to do that presentation, to give that TED talk, and that's that's super important. And one thing I noticed with both Freddie and Finn and some other guys I work with, they seem to be old beyond their years. You know what I mean? And that starts from even the very early geckos. They get up on stage and say your name when it's your birthday, and then they'll get up and say their name and it's their birthday. And then you see that in the other years, as they get older and older, they're always making them go up on stage and presenting. There's a little middle school band that they're in, and so that's, and by the time they get to the end of primary school, they're doing the footprints. This is the time where it's really kind of stressful as a parent, because it's a big project that that everyone comes to watch. But it really helps, right? You're never gonna. I don't think it's easy to get through life without being a good speaker and a good presenter, and so they help really well with that, which is one of the good things about this place.
Thank you. So I know we are a little over time in terms of the time slot we booked for everyone. We do apologize for that, but hang in there. We just have maybe 1 or 2 more questions for Luke, and then I'm going to talk about the opportunities to stay in touch. So Luke, maybe on a final note, those people that are out there considering Green School, is there any sort of piece of special advice, anything you want to share with them apart from what we already discussed today?
Yeah, I think we came for a year and we're here 7 years later, which I was able to do because we sold the company and did rather well and didn't have to get a job. What I think can be difficult in Bali is getting work. More and more there's a lot of remote work that's going on. I know a lot of people who live here and do work in Singapore, so that's much better than it was. If you've got in your head that you're going to do a year, I would encourage you to do 2, just because I think that it takes 2 to really kind of get the magic. Generally speaking, after you've been here 2 years, you'll want to be here another 2 or 3. So planning for that. Sometimes one person in the couple loves it and the other one doesn't, right? So work out what are you going to do when that happens. After a while, if you're not working, you think it's going to be super fun, but you do generally want to start work. And there is quite a lot of it around. Like there's stuff you can do, but I would when you're planning on Bali, I would think about 2 years as a minimum, and if you can manage it, then more. I mean, we always thought, look, it's a little bit of an experiment. We're worried about what if the kids don't get into uni, but I think more and more it's a choice that's going to be a beneficial thing for getting into university. And so I wouldn't worry about the academics of it. I would, have a look at some of those Greenstones. They're all on YouTube, and look at some of the kids and think. Whenever I see those high school kids doing that, I think, oh Christ, this is great. And if my son Leo or Lucia could be like Freddie, I think it would be amazing, right? Because he's just got off to such a great start in life. And so if you're thinking about it and worried about it, I would do it, but try to plan for a couple of years.
Great. Thank you so much, Luke, and thank you to all of you for joining us here live in the jungle setting here in Bali. We are super happy that you have chosen to spend some time with us. And before we close off today, as promised, we just wanted to highlight a couple of the opportunities you have to continue the conversation with us. And it should be on your screen now. There is a QR code you can scan, and all this information, by the way, will also be shared with you by email. But on your left-hand side, you'll see some of the options to continue talking to us, to continue being curious. The first one is to connect with our parents. Apart from Luke that was here live on set today, there is a number of our parents that are ambassadors. You can find them on our website, and you can feel free to ask them questions that you may feel are specific to your family or your nationality. So please just connect with them online. There's a number of options to do tours. You can join our open campus, which is the physical open day we have twice a year here in Bali. You can also book a tour. We have regular tours on campus every week. So if you have that chance to do a long weekend in Bali or want to visit before you take the final decision to maybe join our school, there's also an option to, of course, come and visit, have a conversation with our admissions team, see the school, see what's going on, the learning in real life before you decide for any commitments. And then finally, there's a virtual tour. So you did see some of our campus in the video today, but there's also a virtual tour available on our website, where if you go in, you can pick and choose the different locations yourself. You can see those 360 shots and get a good impression of what campus looks like, all the facilities that we have on offer here in Bali. And then finally, of course, you can subscribe to our newsletter for any updates or information about the developments here in Bali and what are the options to dive into some of the learning stories that we always share when we share our newsletters.
And if you go to the Instagram site,
yeah, true,
and talk to the Instagram site with the messaging, you'll be talking to an AI that one of the students developed so that it can talk to you in whatever language you speak in 24 hours a day. And that was a cool little project that we did to solve some of the problems of the non-English speaking people who wanted to, and we trained the AI all about the Green School to answer questions all about Green School. And so you can talk to that AI, and then you can book meetings with the Green School as well. So that was kind of a cool one of the little projects we're doing. And the videos, I think the YouTube videos of the Greenstones are great, because then you can see what are kids like when they come out of Green School. And looking at those Greenstones, you think, Christ, there are some great, they're not all amazing, but there are some really good ones. Yeah. And so I would encourage those two things as well.
Yeah, and I think the team is sharing that in the chat now as well, and we'll include that in the email that we will send to you as a follow-up after today's session, so that you can get a chance to go into that YouTube channel and see some of the capstone projects from both grade 5, 8 and 12 that Lucas is speaking to.
Go and look at my daughter. She swam from Bali to Java.
Yeah, and that's a long way, by the way. Yeah,
it was and dangerous. Yeah. But she decided to do that. So that was I think she was first on the.
Was that for her quest? Indeed.
For her quest at the end of middle school. Yeah.
Very cool.
Great. So to all of you out there, thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning, afternoon or evening, depending on where you're joining from. We are coming to a close here in Bali. It's coming towards 5 p.m. and tomorrow is another exciting school day here on campus. So hopefully we get a chance to meet again. Feel free to continue the conversation using some of those options, and we'd love to welcome you here in Bali if you have the opportunity to join us for a tour, or even better, for the full school experience. Thank you so much for hanging out today, and all the best to all of you, and hope to see you soon in Bali. Thank you very much and enjoy your day.
Bye.